Hello, hello, and welcome to New World Aeternum Weekly, where we discuss New World every week. We talk about what's going on in the news, what we're excited about, what we've been doing in game, etc., etc. I am your host, Kaizen, and I am cracking open a Central Waters Brewing Company Pecan Kringle Stout Brewers Reserve. Oh, that's good. And I've got a Dragon's Milk Solera queued up right behind it, so I am feeling good right now. With us this week, we've got, of course, WOLFDRAGON. Say hello to the beautiful people, Wolf. Tell them what you're drinking.
Hey everyone, I am taking it awfully easy tonight, just having me some Monster to get the caffeine back in me and wake up, 'cause man, I am dragging today.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And we also have SWORDSMITH from the crew. Sword, say hi to the beautiful people. Tell us what you're drinking tonight.
Hello, everyone. It's noon here over on the Pacific Coast, and I am drinking Diet Coke because I want to stay awake for the rest of the day.
There you go. There you go. All right. So let's get right to it. First off, we did not have a show last week. Your boy is getting over COVID, and whatever. I'm fine. I'll live. Um, but it was a bit rough. So we took the week off of both shows last week, and just I did a lot of sleeping. I'm not gonna lie, but we're back, and let's jump right back into it. So, what we've got going on this week to discuss is first off, the Winter Convergence event has been extended until the 25th. So, today is the 23rd, so it'll be done on Tuesday. So, we're going, we're just wrapping up the tail end of that real quick. Who hop in, guys? Your thoughts on the Winter Convergence events? Continue, wrapping up and what you've done in it so far and whatnot.
Been a lot of fun. I've still been hunting the comets, not so much just to get the Gleamite for they give great rep, which
Mm-hmm.
by now all of us should have capped that out and been able to do all the missions, but just to get a little bit of that's a really cool thing. Maybe go smack some Gleamite out of the ground,
Mm-hmm.
turn it into the various food stuffs and whatnot. I've already got a whole bunch of the patterns. I don't know when I'm going to use them, but I got them in my pocket for whenever I decide to do something cool with it. But
Nice.
be nice if we could get the recipe for the food. But you know what? I'm okay with just stockpiling and as I need it, eat it, and then hopefully my own cooking will be high enough to make some better shit later.
Yeah, so about the Winter Convergence event. First off, the Aurora Borealis over the Christmas villages is amazing. The Christmas Yeti, the ice caves, I think is great. I think it's fantastic. I think it's very cool, and they've said that those caves are going to be a permanent fixture in the game going forward. They are what did they say? It was like something like a scar left over from the Winter Convergence. So it's a thing that's just added cool little, not dungeons, but almost like a mini event dungeon location, arena, whatever you want to call it. A one room spot with some different that they can put a boss, a treasure chest, and a couple of ads, and you have to deal with that. I think that's cool.
I think it gives some nice longevity to things too, to start building some history within the game itself.
Also, just as importantly, just as important, and I think obviously sort of much more important for the long term of the game, uh, this event has brought in a daily influx of cash. You can end up running around with several hundred extra a day for every character in the game for just hitting up the Christmas trees. And also, it's been a free gypsum every day of like, okay, Instead of having 6 things you can do, here's the 7th. You can get your you can get your free diamond gypsum and turn that into an upgrade. And I think that those are all very, very sort of important and should not be overlooked. So, as we say goodbye to the Winter Convergence event, we should look at the aspect of the event itself and what it did, but also boosting money into the economy, helping to combat, the deflation that we were dealing with, as well as boosting upgrades, gear upgrades. Sword, what do you think?
Completely agree. I really liked how short it was, but at the same time, because of that aspect, I'm ready for it to be over.
Okay.
But it's nice to see that they'll keep the reminders of it around. And to be fair, I have probably close to 1,000 patterns I'm keeping around. So
Nice.
I don't know
Nice.
what I'm going to do with them.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I think those patterns will be. I snagged up some myself. I think they will come into their own as far as be desirable when we get a sort of more complete glam system, transmog, whatever you want to call it, in this game.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of those things are really good, if nothing else, just for the look, and I've snagged them up for exactly that reason. Okay, so in addition to that, we also have it is very, very much speculated upon and whatever that 1.3 that has been in the PTR this whole time is going to be launching when the event ends. So since the event ends on the 25th, we're looking at the hype, the suggestion, the thought, although it has not been officially announced yet, is that come the 25th, 26th, we're going to see 1.3 land in live. Now, in preparation for this, everybody's been saying, hey, don't do the dungeons because it's not worth until you have full 590 and yada, yada, yada. And then also now they're upping the rewards that you're going to be getting for the last dungeons in patch 1.3 that should be landing in a couple of days. So everybody's been saying, hold off. But I have beaten every dungeon in the game. I had done already Lazarus Instrumentality months ago, and Garden of Genesis was the only one that I had not done yet, and we've been holding off on our keys because, oh, that's the smart thing to do, whatever. But it's like, all right, we need to hit this. So we did it as a group just the other day. It was an interesting challenge. We did not go in with a whole lot of a foreknowledge of this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. We had a little bit of very, very minimal prep and just sort of took the fights organically. And, oh man, did we have some wipes on Caretaker. But we ended up getting it down. And the two big bosses, you got Caretaker. All of the mini bosses were kind of cake. The two big bosses, Caretaker and whoever that plant chick is at the end, who's kind of like, to me, she reminds me of, okay, it's Scylla again. Scylla, the first boss from Lazarus, which is the hardest boss. This boss was basically sort of a reskin of a Naga like that, and it was a big plant Naga type thing. And yeah, whew, they were interesting to say the least. Wolf was not there for that, but Sword, you were there for that. You want to share some of your thoughts on the feelings of Garden of Genesis, that run?
In general, I personally appreciated the Caretaker far more than I appreciated the final boss. I believe it's the Greenskeeper.
Why so?
And it comes down to when we were fighting the final boss, the Greenskeeper, if I remember correctly, it felt like it was a game of probabilities rather than an actual game of skill. It came down to where did those balls she was dropping land, and if they landed in a good spot, and you didn't get nuked by a slam or a
Tether.
hit, you
Yeah.
were going to survive on to the next round.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some RNGs to that, more so to the second one than the first one. There was. Okay. Sword, I mean, have you done, I don't, you weren't with us when we did Lazarus. Have you done Laz yet? And what are your thoughts on just what Genesis was as far as an end game content piece?
So I haven't done Laz yet. I'll preface this with that.
Okay.
Genesis was about as hard as I was expecting. I'm actually kind of surprised that my expectations were where they would be, considering how the difficulty went up from Amarine to Starstone to
Oh, it ramped up
the depths to
a lot.
Dynasty.
Yeah. It ramped up a lot between Amarine, Starstone, and Depths, I feel, are sort of are a nice sort of progression of like here, here, here. And I think Dynasty maybe is a decent continuation on that progression, but then it is, I think the wall goes almost straight vertical for Garden of Genesis and Lazarus, especially Lazarus.
Right. Well, I haven't played Lazarus yet, so I couldn't speak to that point. But Genesis was significantly harder, but considering all that I'd heard about it, I was not surprised, which was actually kind of nice.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Wolf, what do you think about all this?
I mean, one of my favorite, like, hey, guess what? You're gonna start playing MMO. What do you want to do? I love crafting. I love getting out there and doing jobs, and I love getting to the point where I can group up with my friends and we can all go run either just the big overworld, open whatever missions that they have that are, you got to do it as a team, or doing dungeons. I like how, like this past week, we sat down and figured out, hey, before the new patch comes in and the probable change of, if I have Voidbit armor after that, but I haven't done all the stuff to get my expertise upgrades, it's not going to be as useful. And we made, you and I made myself a set of Voidbit armor, and I had everything except the moats to make it just in my, I'm going to go out and I feel like working on this level of crafting or, whatnot. Like right now I'm running around collecting hemp and silkweed and whatnot, and also getting my Azoth back up to cap in the process. But, I didn't have to go around and do a whole bunch of, say, outpost rush or just grind mobs in a particular town or that kind of thing to get the stuff I needed to essentially be geared out enough so that when we do go to these places, I'm able to hang. So that I thought was really cool. And what was really awesome about what you were saying with, you went there, you didn't have everything, fully analyzed. It's not like you were trying to beat things up against like what the current meta is and whatnot. Yeah, it had some fuck ups, but you went out as a group and you conquered, and that's just awesome because that tells me that I play far more casually than you do, that I can just keep on keeping on, enjoying the game how I want to enjoy it, and when we want to team up and do all the really cool high-end shit, I can just join.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a stretch.
Yeah, there's going to be some of that, like especially with, we were talking about the mutated dungeons and the absolute ridiculousness. Some of those, what was it? Not curses. Those were the high end. There was a second one that came in after elemental, whatever.
You have the affixes. You have the affixes, which are the mobs get stronger in X way, but then you have the curses, which is you get weaker in Y way, And that's where shit gets real hairy.
Yeah, that's gonna be like no joke. I expect that to be frustrating as hell for me, but you know, if it's not just me going through the pain and I'm with buddies, it helps make it more enjoyable.
Right on. So let's talk about sort of the big what's coming, which is 1.3. 1.3 we expect to land, like I said, on Tuesday, Wednesday. Now they haven't said that it's landing then, so it might not. That could be wrong. That's just an assumption that we're making. But if it does land at that point, well, what does that mean? What does that bring with it? Obviously, dungeon mutations. And that's going to be the biggest of the kind of like, okay, here's the change, and everybody's going to be working on that. But in addition, there are these new things. Have you guys? I think this is Amazon making a conscious decision to say, like, hey, this injection of cash into the economy during the winter convergence events was good and was needed, and we want to continue with that. So there's this new thing. I forget what it is. It's like green beans or snap peas or some shit, where there's things where you can randomly, while you're doing stuff out in the world, you're going to get a bag of snap peas or green beans or whatever the fuck it is. And that you get basically 3 of them a day. If you play for an hour, you'll get 3.
For berries.
Blue member berries, whatever. You play for 3 hours, you'll get still just 3. You play for 15 hours, you'll still just get 3. It's a daily thing of here's free money bags, because each of the member berries or yellow berries or snap peas or whatever the fuck they are, it's like, here's 100 gold. So basically, they're continuing that aspect of the Christmas thing for the time being, because obviously in their metrics that they're seeing on the back end, they were seeing that infusion of cash was good for the overall player base and whatnot. So they're like, okay, we're going to keep that for now. In addition to that, obviously, they're making the keys a good bit easier. They started with at the very beginning of the 1.3 process in the PTR, it was making the keys a good bit easier to get. And then basically what they had was complaints from people of, hey, this isn't enough. These keys are a pain in the balls. We do not like them. We are not happy. We are not, like, this is not good. Do better. And they have, through the PTR process, sort of on a continual basis, like said, oh, okay, well, we'll make it easier. We'll make it easier. We'll make it easier. It's not, I don't think, even as it stands now, I don't think it's in its final form. I think, to me, and I could be wrong, but I think the whole the whole key process still sucks. It is not easy enough. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. The process of barrier to entry to access the dungeons and stuff is unfortunate. I feel like when you spend all this money and effort as a team working on these dungeons, any impediment to accessing them is a poor design decision.
Well, the other thing to consider, Kai, is the fact that when you look at, what is the current, in-game gameplay?
Mm-hmm.
You've got invasions, you've got wars, you've got dungeons.
So
We've already beat
invasions.
that horse to death with the invasions and the wars.
Yeah, well, wait, because there might be people that are hearing this that haven't heard our previous conversations. The problem with invasions and wars is that is gate kept behind the 1%, the people that own the towns. And the fact of the matter is I've participated in 3 wars, and those were all because last minute fluke, the people who whatever didn't have enough people show up and were like, fuck, we'll take anybody. I have participated in many, many invasions, but that is always behind this aspect of, oh, do the people that are running shit, did they get all their friends in, so all their friends get the reward? Yes. Now X spaces are left over. Okay, we'll take anyone. So invasions and wars are both gate kept behind the 1%ers of the game. You know, they own it, they run it, they decide who gets it, and you are entirely at their mercy. Go ahead. You were now.
Yeah.
With that
so
said, finish your
with
point.
that said, you can't gatekeep the dungeons. I mean, they're there. You have a key. You go do them.
Except
The only
Amazon
gatekeeping
is
is the
gatekeeping.
key.
Yeah.
Because it's literally a gate that you have to put a key in. But that is a thing that they can directly control, whereas the way the current system is with the invasions and the wars and which faction's in charge is a much more complex issue.
So
The dungeons I've been in have been gorgeous. I want to see the other ones.
So
I wanna make you
Amazon
see 'em.
Amazon made it very, 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 very hard to get into those dungeons more than once. Basically, they're like, hey, as part of the story, we're going to give you a key. If you do side quest, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 keys to get into X dungeon, any dungeon. After that, the way to get into a dungeon is get your stone cutting to 200, go and do this process where it's like do stone cutting stuff and then run around and do portals for 10 hours and then run around and do this and then run around and do that, and it's literally a thing where it's like, yeah, spend 20 hours of your life and you can make a key to get in, or just look at the chat channels where people are spamming, hey man, for $3,000, for $2,000, you can get you could buy a slot for $2,000, $3,000, and now you can join. And when I first saw those, I was like, screw these people. These people are evil, whatever. That was my own ignorance. When I finally learned, when I got my stone cutting up to 200 and saw what it takes to make that, I was like, oh man, these people are not taking advantage. These people are just charging for their time and effort. It is literally that stupid hard to make a goddamn key to get into this place. That's disgusting. That is a failure on Amazon's part. And it's a failure that they have acknowledged. They've said, oh yeah, we screwed up. We made this way too hard. We're trying to find the perfect balance. Now, through this process, they have, since the launch of the game, like 8 times made it easier to make the keys, easier to make the keys, easier to make the keys, easier to get the keys. And at the end now, they're like, it's easier to get the keys, not from even making it, but now you can make it and or you can buy it with faction tokens. But since they've made it possible to buy them through faction tokens, they have twice now made it easier. They're like, okay, it's still too hard. It's still too hard. It's still too hard. And where it's at now, with the final process that they're about to launch in a few days, it's still too hard. It's still a bad idea. It's still poor game design because it's too much of a ball ache to get in there. So, and they've acknowledged it every step of the way. They said, we've realized it's not good. We're trying to make it easier. But it's honestly in a place where
I wonder why they have to have a key system for it at all.
I don't know.
I mean,
don't
just theory
I don't
crafting.
know.
Let's just say, like, it's part of the main story quest. You get sent to most of them. I know once you're up in the 3 territories that can't be owned, there's some side quests. Like, I've got one that sent me to Genesis and one that wants me to go, that's also sending me to Lazarus. I would think that once you've done that, hey, your key's in your pocket already. Like, just get a group together and go raid the dungeon because you've already earned the ability to go into the dungeon.
I don't understand what they're not getting with this. They're the game designers, so I mean they got to be some smart fellas. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. I don't understand why they haven't literally just now. Okay, I mean maybe I'm trying to. Let's play devil's advocate. Maybe they're like, hey, we got to have some reason for stone cutting to be of value because as it is now, it has zero fucking purpose if you take away the keys. But like, I don't know, man. It's really, it baffles me. It's like you're spending the effort to put rewards and you're spending your design team's time to develop and design dungeons. And you're doing a pretty good job of it. And then you're making this artificial barrier that just makes it hard / unfun to grind to be able to enter those dungeons more than, once or twice period for each person ever in the history of the game.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's times when a grind, makes sense. Like in order to, level up your different crafts and, ability to harvest stuff and things of that nature. But
this is not one of those times.
This is not one of those times.
Mm-hmm. Sword, you were about to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, the original explanation I heard for why we had keys was because the rewards are in New World compared to every other MMO are so much better, and the rewards are too good. If we didn't have keys limiting access, it would cause rampant inflation. Everybody would be grinding dungeons all the time. And given the rewards and the probability of getting what you actually need, I'm not sure that admittedly old explanation holds any water anymore.
I mean, there are so many times where you run Lazarus or you run Genesis, you run a dungeon, right? And you get, you got an axe, or you got a sword, or you got a shield, or you got a whatever, but it's got just absolutely fucked stats. You got a shield that has int and focus. What? I think it would be different if there was a situation where you knew you were going to get good gear out of it, but there's so many times where you run it. You're running Lazarus because you're like, I want this one musket. God, this God musket drops from there. And then you not that musket. Or you get, so close to that musket, but it instead of, dex int, it's focus strength. And then you're like, boom, 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 boom. I think the keys are an aspect of so many other things we've seen in New World. And I'm going to say this, and look, I don't mean any disrespect to Amazon Game Studios. I don't mean any disrespect to the hardworking men and women who make this game, because I love your game. I love you. I am a super fan, period. Having said that, I feel like there's a fear we've seen on the part of so many game developers over the years. We've seen it with Elite, and we called it out and we ripped them to shreds for it, where you don't have the like faith in your game, the fun of your game, to just let it be good. So you put up all these roadblocks of like, well, we have to put in artificial grind to make people, have these roadblocks to slow them down so they won't reach the end and say, fuck off, I'm out, I quit. And I mean, maybe, whatever, maybe that artificial roadblock is necessary, and I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of a consumer, and I don't see it. But I honestly feel it's like, guys, just relax with that shit. Just let us access the dungeons we want. Remove 50% of the grind. And instead of that, try to find game loops that are pleasurable post-grind for your players. Now, that could be 2v2, 3v3, 5v5 arenas. That could be changing the overall structure of how territory ownership works. I feel like that's a whole side aspect. That's a whole other conversation of the way that Amazon has made this game has unintentionally created this weird have and have nots where you have, for example, on our server, House of Var, that have everything, and everyone else in Marauder faction who is just a not even second class, a third class citizen who is looking for any scraps we can find. And I don't say that by way of trying to disrepute or attack or blame House of Var. They just got here first. They were here at the server at launch, and they did it well. They played the game better than others. So I'm not shitting on them, but I feel that the way that the territory ownership process works had, I think, CIG has admitted it had unintended consequences, and it created this one percenters who just sort of run shit. And this server, this story is played out on most of the servers in different ways. It's a different group in each server, but you have in every server, in every faction, each faction in each server has at least one, like, this is their dominant whatever, and everyone else is just third-class citizens. And I think that CIG has given certain hints.
You mean Amazon, right?
What am I saying? God damn it.
You're
Amazon.
saying
CIG, yeah. AGS, Amazon Game Studios, sorry, not CIG. They have sort of said this, they've addressed this. They've said, like, yeah, whoops, this is a problem. They know what it is, but in their defense, I don't know how you fix it. So, like, but it has created a whole other thing where I feel like if they were to fix it, and I don't know, you need somebody smarter than me, but if they were to fix it somehow, where territory ownership was a more spread out thing among the whole faction, multiple factions gained in rewards, multiple factions paid the price, multiple factions had a reason to pull together, then I think you'd be in a situation where you wouldn't need to make sure you have all these artificial roadblocks to slow people down and keep them grinding, because we would be the grind. If more than 1% of the companies or players of any faction had meaningful interactions with the whole territory ownership process, then I think you would have a situation whereby it mattered and sort of you had real content to provide your players in the form of grinding back and forth in this never-ending tug of war, pulling against each other in different factions, as opposed to where it stands now, where outside of the 1%, nobody else really gives a fuck about it, because it's like, it is what it is. Just let it play out how it plays out and live with the ramifications. We would actually care. We would be invested. We would be spending our time on all of that. Sword, Wolf, what do you guys think about that?
I honestly can tell you that when I go to a town, I used to look at the town boards. I will still look at the town boards if it's not a House of Var conglomerate, which, you know, if they make it so that multiple companies contribute to the ownership of a singular town, you know, they're going to have to look at it from the standpoint of, okay, how many companies? Because if it's only like, you know, 5, well, I think VAR's got 5 full companies
You've got
at this
House
point.
of
So
Var, Buns of
yeah.
Var, Chosen of Var,
Empire.
Empire
So you
of
got
Var.
you've already got that. So I mean, they got to intelligently look at it, like, okay, how big do we need to make this so that it alleviates this problem, quote unquote.
I think the way
Um,
you can't
but
design it in a way with a specific number in mind. You have to design it from the other end instead of from the that's a top-down solution. You need a bottom-up solution of basically designing it in a system in a way that every company in a faction can be involved somehow in the process.
yeah, the point I was making is if it's a VAR territory, I'd be like, well, they're the ones that make sure that they keep owning it and keep it doing whatever. So they're the ones that can do the town board missions for
They're richer than
whatever
God.
reasons they need to, because they've got all the money to just go to the board and buy whatever they need. And oh, look, all the missions are done, and they contribute to their own
Yeah.
self-licking lollipop at that point. I will go and help other towns. I don't care what color they are. It doesn't bother me at all. And it's like, oh, this has got a tier 5 whatever thing that I need to make whatever thing I'm crafting on, and I'll do it there and pay the tax there and contribute to their town just because I don't care. But if they gave something such that it would change my line of thought such that I would care that, you know, this is a green territory. I want to support green, you know, and you know, to keep it that way. Awesome. But until they do that, it's like, no, VAR's rogered up to that, and you know, I'm sure that there are other mega companies and whatnot across the other servers where, you know, they keep everything on a tight leash, and it's like, if you're not in our group, you know, then you're not going to participate in the other stuff. And like, they don't look to see that, yeah, there's a whole bunch of other companies here that probably have competent people that want to do whatever, but you know, we won't let them in because they're not our name. So all the smaller companies that you make with your friends and, you know, whatever social groups you have, just dissolve or move or whatnot, and that it doesn't bode well for that side of the game.
What do you think, Sword?
I'm agreeing with Wolf here, and one thing that I heard Wolf say, but I'm not sure it came out that clearly, was that not only do you not want to help House of Var as much as you want to help some of the smaller factions, but also when you go to the House of Var board, you're more likely to find an empty board.
Well, if they've done everything, that kind of limits the number of things you can do. Like, if everything's tier 5, sure, I can understand. Like, there's very few things to upgrade, you know, because the fort's done, the town's done, all the different perks are done. Fine, great, dandy. The only thing left there is contributing to town upkeep. Well, they get paid enough; they contribute to their own upkeep.
Exactly,
Now,
and
I feel it's important to again state for the record, we're not blaming the
We're
one
not blaming them.
percenters. We're not blaming the people that have succeeded in the current design system. We're simply saying that the game developers should do a better job of revising that system such that more players have a reason to care, is all. Right? I mean, let's be
100%.
honest. You shouldn't blame VAR for being successful, and I feel like this is a weird conversation because we're talking about a specific company on our specific server. This is completely irrelevant to 99% of the people who are listening to this, with the exception of the fact that it is relevant if you just change the names. It's VAR on our server. It could be somebody else on your server. And it's not their fault that they've done well under the current system. But that doesn't mean that the current system shouldn't be looked at to be designed in a way that makes it more inclusive for all of the players on all of the servers in any of the factions to want to be involved in the process. Right?
Well,
100%.
agreed. And I think there is another aspect, I'll say. When now, for everybody who hasn't listened to many of these, I started late. Wolf and Kai got way far ahead of me, and I came in 3 months later. When I first started, we were in a phase where I could go up to any town board and fill up with missions. There were, what is it, 16 missions available that I could select from. And that was a very reliable way for me to get XP and town rep. Nowadays, at least 60% of the towns have most of their boards empty. And I think we're seeing a change in the phase of the actual game where when I first started, that phase was we don't quite know how to win invasions. We're trading territories on a pretty regular basis, meaning that towns were getting downgraded repeatedly. And now we're in a phase where the top tier companies know how to defeat invasion. They've got BIS gear for the critical people. And we're no longer seeing that money and material exit the economy.
So this brings
Not
up
saying
an
that-
interesting point or question or statement, which is that, and we're going to get into this in a little bit. Amazon Game Studio put out in the last week a video where, you know how they did for December, they did a big update. They did like a 45-minute long or hour-long video where they discussed different things they're going to do. They gave like a roadmap, and it was so appreciated. It was so welcomed. It was so needed. And they got back feedback that, like, from the player base, hey, we love it. We keep doing this, please. And they were like, okay, so we're going to listen. You guys said you liked it. They did another one for January. And in that January one, they said specifically, one of the things that Scott Lane, he's the head lead developer for the game, he said, we can't get into the details just yet, but we hear you that people feel excluded from like wars and invasions. And we want to come up with a form, or we want to figure out a system whereby more people get access to that type of content. And that was it. So, like, we don't have details, we don't have whatever, but I feel like the Amazon Game Studios have gone on the record of saying, we know that the wars and the invasions both are in a place where only certain people get to access them. And we want to fix that. That doesn't say how they're going to do it. That doesn't give any details. But it does publicly acknowledge on their behalf the problem. And I am very, very excited, gratified, curious where that goes. What do you guys think, Sword and Wolf both? Where could that go? What would you like to see with regard to that?
Well, two things immediately come to mind. When it comes to a war over a territory, with the current system where it's a single company that has the vested interest in holding on to the county, I completely understand the way it is, the why it is, and how it works for now. It's like, look, they're the ones in charge. They get to call the shots.
They're the one that lose the money
They're the
if they
ones
lose.
that yeah, they're the ones that have the most at risk. Blah blah blah. Like I completely get that. Like if you're in a company of 10 people, you're probably never going to own your own territory, and it just kind of is what it is, and that's an unfortunate case.
Fair.
However, I could see that maybe there will be a change to how invasions are done. And if they divorce losing fortification upgrades from an invasion loss, i.e. the only thing that happens is it downgrades stuff in the town.
Commercial aspect.
Which would mean that then stuff would go back on the board for things to get back upgraded to what they once were. Make it so that you can't do I can just keep kicking people out and then stuff the roster that way, because it's obvious the way it's set up is that the governor is only supposed to be able to pick 10 characters. And then the rest 40 are supposed to be whoever wants to sign up. Except the way they do it now is and I can't blame them. This is the way the system is. You just stack the roster with your own people, and you kick out the people who aren't your own people.
And you filter till you get all the people you want in.
Exactly. So if they change
and in fairness to those people, they are simply working within the framework that Amazon Game Studio gives them.
Yeah, again, don't hate the player, hate the game. Like that, they're doing exactly what is completely legal within the tools that they've been given, and
Correct.
I can understand completely why they're doing it, because there is risk to the fort, which means that it adversely affects them in a war.
In addition to that, it's just human nature. If you were to put me in charge, if I owned Everfall, for example, and there was an invasion, and a bunch of people signed up, and then at the last minute, you, Wolf, or you, Sword, came and said, I'm here! I want in on this. I need some Azoth.
Yep.
I would, if it's legal, if it's within the rules, if it's allowed under the current system, I would kick out somebody to make room for you. So we're not blaming the people.
I can't blame them.
Who are currently benefiting from the system. We're simply stating that the game company should modify the system to make it such that you take away the power of the people to do what you don't want them to do. Right?
Yes, but importantly, it also said it's also if the invasion is lost, don't let it affect the
defenses.
Fort, so that it doesn't affect war. Right now, invasions and war are tied too closely together.
So to be clear, in case somebody misses what Wolf is saying, here's what he's saying. He's saying that right now, if there's an invasion, everything gets downgraded randomly on a random table. Whereas if you take out the defensive stuff, so that if I throw an invasion, let's say I'm purple and the invasion is on a territory that's yellow, I lose on purpose so that the defenses will get downgraded so that tomorrow I can attack them better. And what Wolf is saying is divorce any of the defensives, the wall strength, the cannons, the ballista, the all of that, so that none of that gets downgraded. And now that removes the necessity of a governor saying, hey man, these guys, if I have an invasion and 30 purples sign up right off the bat, and we know for a fact that the purples are tomorrow going to invade us, they want to throw it. They want to lose because now it's easier for them on their attack tomorrow. So just to be absolutely clear, in case anybody was like, what are you talking about? I wanted to be very, very clear. What Wolf is saying, and he's absolutely right, is if you divorce all of the defensive upgrades from the invasion, that they don't get downgraded, just the commercial aspect does. Now you negate the need of the governor to kick people out because it's clear that they're trying to sabotage the invasion itself. Go ahead, Wolf.
So if you do that, then that right there fixes the whole thing with invasions. Now there's a flip side to this, and it would be something new, i.e., like for wars, the content is you've got a group inside the fort defending and a group outside the fort attacking. Well, if there was some way that there could be skirmishes that do not have any effect on downgrading or whatnot, that it'll still pay out. Like the biggest thing that makes my eye twitch about not being able to get into wars and invasions is I essentially don't have access to those money and material making things that it does.
Let me ask you a
Well,
question, Wolf.
if you
Go
create
ahead.
something where you have essentially the same thing happening, but it's completely divorced from any effects whatsoever, yeah, then maybe the payout should be, a little lower, not significantly lower by comparison to the other things that it's a copy of. But again, it takes away the governing company now no longer has a vested interest in making sure they go a specific way, and therefore it would open up the ability for everyone to enjoy.
Let me ask you a question, Wolf. What if Amazon were to look to, like, say, hey, no, we're not changing anything that's happened before. Everything that's happened to this point has happened. But on a go-forward basis, as of 1.3 or 1.4, whatever, they change it in February, they change it in March, whatever. At any point, if Amazon Game Studio were to announce, we're making a change in how ownership of a territory works, and here's how we're changing it. 1/3 of all of the revenue earned goes to the one company in that faction that owns the territory. And 2/3 of the revenue goes to any company that is earning, reputation, is doing the work to keep the rep for that faction up, and or doing this and that, like participating in the process that maintains ownership of that faction, so that VAR, as the ownership of Everfall and Windsward, gets a full third just to themselves because, hey man, they're the people that actually fought in the war to defend it. And the other 2/3 of that money is distributed upon all of the companies in the Marauder faction that worked for it, such that now it actually becomes profitable and interesting and motivational for Black Sky Legion, for this group, that group, for 8,000 other groups. I mean, obviously not 8,000 groups, but whatever, 50 groups that are out there that are Marauders, to say, like, we now have a reason to care. We now have a reason to run PvP missions in that faction for the for the territory control aspect. We now have reason to care, whatever, because we're also getting paid. I feel that does two things. Number one, it still allows for the people that are defending the war and actually whatever to care and to have a reason to put forth the effort. But it also spreads out sort of the 1% spoils among the whole team who was, you know, theoretically having a reason to care, and also spreads like it gives reason for the other groups to care. What do you think about that? About just taking the money? Because I feel like with all of this, it comes down to the money. The people that get the money get the rewards. And if 1% of the people get the money, then obviously 99% of the people don't have any reason to fucking care. But if the money were spread out among all of the people that did work, that would give other people reason to do work.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing right now for us to is like, oh look, there's a war here. Oh, it's whatever. I don't care. Or oh, there's an invasion here. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't care. Like even working in the town, like for the stuff that whenever like an invasion happens to be lost for VAR, and then they got to rebuild the town or whatnot. Like I don't care. Like give me a reason to care. Like right now, I'm running around in all kinds of different places just trying to grind cash back up because I, got dirt poor. Getting a couple things squared away that I wanted to before the next patch comes with what we think are going to be changes that are going to make things harder for me the long run just because of my play style. Like I've actively been helping out others because I don't care about helping out my own. Making it so that there is an incentive to help out my own, quote unquote. Yeah, I'd love it. I would be all over it.
What do you think, Sword?
I kind of agree. However, I think from the perspective of many players and probably the devs as well, the tragedy isn't necessarily the fact that we aren't getting the rewards. It's the fact that we aren't experiencing the game mode that they created.
But I mean, that's the point. If we all got the rewards, we would all get the game mode. We would. Black Sky Legion, as it stands now, we run whatever, we do gypsum, we do whatever. But if we were to be able to earn our rewards, I think we would spend every day looking at like the faction weight of all of these different territories that are green and or not green, and like be doing work for it. Don't you think? Like
True,
if we got money, if we got paid, now we have a reason to care about the rest of it.
You're not wrong.
The other thing I'd say is, for personal instance, I have not signed up for a invasion in over 2 weeks. And that just comes down to I have no faith that I'll get into anything. So why bother signing up? Why bother wasting that 20 minutes of guaranteed loss of time to...
How about this? How about because just signing up for an invasion gives your company points on like, okay, now you've earned X amount, whether you're selected or not. And now your company is getting paid.
That could work, although personally I prefer either the solution of sub-instances that has been discussed extensively on the forums, or the lobby idea that we had discussed about 6 episodes ago.
Why don't you explain that?
So one idea that's been on the forums, and it works both for war and invasions, is that there's a prime instance where the company leadership chooses everybody who goes in. They get to prepare as much as they like, and that is what affects everything else. That's what affects the territory. But then everybody else who signed up gets thrown into a sub-instance where there's no effect, but there's also no change. And you have to learn to work together with complete randos with likely absolutely no defined leadership. But still, you get to participate in the event. The lobby idea that we had discussed earlier is that instead of this works more for invasions of getting pulled in and then kicked to cycle out the people they don't want to get the people they get in. Everybody just gets pulled into a lobby. The company commander picks the people he wants to get involved, and once he's done that, everybody else gets paid off and sent on their way.
Okay. Why don't we do this? First Sword, then Wolf. Go through and give me, if you could affect any change at all in the game, what would it be? Sword, then Wolf.
I would implement lobbies for invasions.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like a really good idea. Show up, be ready, don't get picked. Here's your free car for, showing up to play whatever, a la whatever game show style. Be nice. It's definitely probably an easier fix to implement than adding in any, copy over content kind of thing. But it still doesn't answer the call of a large majority of the player base is unable to participate in the thing. It's like, yeah, I showed up, I was ready to participate, I couldn't do it, but at least I got paid. Yeah, that's one thing. The flip side of that is still here to do it. Yeah, I got paid, and I can get paid over and over again, but payout's nice, or it's useful, but I'm still not getting to do the thing that I want to do. So I like the idea, but still doesn't quite ring the bell on letting everyone experience what they want in the game. I'm thinking they got to do something to make it so that we have the ability to do those play styles in a manner that is not gatekept by the pick your color on server megacorp company thing.
Yep. In honesty, I gotta say, I agree with your point, but I think you're thinking too small. If you were to ask me what changes I would make in the game, here's what they are. Number one, you need to completely redesign the territory ownership, RVR, realm v realm, faction v faction aspect of the game, such that it doesn't just provide wealth for the 1%, but that it provides motivation for everyone in a faction to pull their weight in the system, to participate in the system. Number two, you absolutely, Amazon, you absolutely need to rethink the entire key system such that you can gatekeep a percentage or an aspect if that's what you're super interested in doing, but that you don't make it a punishment for the people that want to enjoy your game mode. Number three, for the love of God, you absolutely need to allow for loadouts. You need to come up with a system for that. Number four, you need to provide some form of you need to do a better job of balancing, getting rid of bots, dealing with all of that, and obviously this, you've said this, that's what your entire February is going to be focused on. So I'm super excited to see where that goes.
I'm looking forward to see them, upping the game against the bots, and then what changes are going to actually be tangible. There's that one bot that we were discussing that you can always find at Windsor chopping down trees.
I mean,
Um,
let's be
I'm
honest
I'm
too.
wondering how that's going to affect, like, they've obviously figured out that we need to have the influx of cash that everyone can get easily. Like with the winter convergence thing with the going to the Christmas tree and getting your exquisite box.
Which
But
they've allowed for to go
yeah,
forward with this new thing. Yeah.
I'm wondering if they can fix the economy fallout that the bots are causing, what changes that would happen, and how they can keep deflation and whatnot in check. Because I think that's a battle that they're really hyper focused on right now, probably at the expense of other quality of life fixes that we've been talking about.
I'm not even sure. And here's the thing. Here's the other. This is the dirty truth about bots. And nobody wants to hear this, and I know I'm going to be the asshole for saying it, but it's the truth. And I challenge you in your heart to deny me. To a certain extent, the bots have been helpful in that bots create inflation. We had a huge problem of deflation. Therefore, the fact that the bots existed created a certain percentage of inflation, which was helping to battle the deflation that was baked into the system. Amazon clearly knows this because they created a system during the holiday convergence where they were just influxing, they were inputting straight up income into the game of like, in a town, go to the Christmas tree. The first 3 Christmas trees, you get hundreds of dollars. Here, have free money. And you could say like, oh, that's just part of the holiday event. Yeah, but as soon as the holiday event ended, they added into the PTR so such that on January 25th, you'll no longer be able to get hundreds of dollars for just going to 3 Christmas trees. But now you get hundreds of dollars for doing anything in the world, and you get 3 fucking whatever it is, snap peas, jelly beans, green beans, whatever. I forget
They
what
called them juniper berries because I immediately started
juniper
thinking about
berry.
gin.
There you go.
And you know how much I like gin.
So it's juniper berries. It's like, here. Also, here's your free. Oh, your free money from there ended. Here's your free money from here because it's free money because we want you to have money because we're trying to battle against deflation. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. So like, and hey, great. I ain't even mad at him, man. Like, yeah, keep it going.
I can tell you, playing the game early on, like there was a few times where it was like, okay, I can do all these town missions, but they're not really paying out enough, or starting to catch up to the town missions, really starting to dry up. It's like, fuck, I need cash. How do I do this? And the only thing you could do is go out, chop down trees, and sell the wood. And that only worked to a point.
But
Like,
part of the reason why that was allowed, part of the reason why that was available is because of the bots driving up the price on it. Driving up, like, there's money in the system, and since there's money in the system, you can now I don't get me wrong, I'm not saying bots are good. I am saying bots cause inflation. And if you're in a situation where you're dealing with rampant deflation, which was where we were at, anything that causes inflation is good, and bots cause inflation. I don't like the bots. I'm not a fan of the bots. I'm not advocating for the bots. I'm simply saying there are multiple situations that have to be addressed. The first is we had rampant deflation. The bots, unfortunately, helped with that. You know?
True. It did.
Now, the trick is to, number one, fix the problem that's causing the rampant deflation. And then, number two, kill all the fucking bots. Now, I'll go back to what I've said repeatedly. You want to kill the bots? It's hookers. It's literally just hookers. You can arrest hookers all day. You will not fix the problem. Arrest the Johns. Arrest the people and or ban the people that are buying gold. If you ban the people that are buying credits, you will fix the problem of bots. If you ignore the Johns and let them get away with it, you will never, ever, 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 ever fix the bots. Now, you absolutely need to go through certain processes to easy anti-cheat or this or that or telemetry or reporting or whatever. There's 15 different ways to sort of go about trying to attack the bots directly. But I feel like it's very clear to me. I don't know if it's clear to anyone else. If you don't fix the Johns, you'll never fix the problem of hookers. If you don't fix the gold buyers, you'll never, ever, ever fix the problem of gold sellers. Anyone who disagrees with me, I don't care if it's somebody on the cast that's here on the show or someone in the chat. Please speak up if you think, oh, you're stupid and here's why. I will read it out loud. I will give you your say. Does anyone think that the problem, I mean, obviously, yes, you have to go through 9,000 different ways to try to attack the bots. But does anyone, anywhere, feel like you can solve this problem without going after the gold buyers? Speak up now.
Oh no, you definitely have to go after the people who are catching the benefits of the behavior that you wish to, stop. There was the first round of bot calling that they did where it was, fairly obvious to tell just by, crazy ass names and whatnot. And I don't know how they affected the bans. Maybe they banned the Steam account that did it. I'm gonna start up a bot account. I'm gonna make a brand new Steam account. It's free. I'm gonna spend $40 on the game and do the thing. And oh look, it got banned. I'll just lather, rinse, repeat this to ad nauseum. If you've got, I could pull up my Steam and I've got 100 something whatever games on there. If you make it so that the person who's benefiting from that by engaging in that behavior gets New World banned off of that Steam account, the game that you're going to end up playing is, do I want to go through the ball ache of buying the game again on a new account and having to change over which Steam, login I'm using, blah, blah, blah. It becomes a battle of how much of a pain in the ass do you make it for the people to engage in. So, there's ways of doing it, and you ban the account, you delete the character, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. But you have to bring the pain, so to speak, so that people will not be inclined to utilize those resources. And I don't know if they're gonna do that. I kind of hope they do, just because it would be quite effective. But it is gonna cause some flack, and I don't know if they want to invite that on themselves or not. I kind of hope they do, but look, we don't want this to happen. We're going to take measures to make it stop. And here's what those measures are. Quit fucking around. Take the Iron Fist approach sometimes, because up until now, whatever they've done really hasn't achieved the goal that they wanted to achieve.
Sword, what do you think?
Alternatively, they could take a slightly softer approach and just wipe the character that buys the gold. I think that would have a similar and possibly even more effective effect.
Mm.
You've just wiped that person's effort, and unless they're a level 10, or to be fair, anything up to a brand new level 60, they can come back and regrind through it, but it's still going to be a decent amount of work. But if they've gone through Lazarus, Genesis, got their BIS and all that, you have just wiped probably close to, oh, now you
100
have me
hours
looking.
plus.
Yeah, easily.
Easily. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And wasted whatever real money they just spent on that transaction.
100%. And here's the thing.
Bring the pain.
Here's the thing. Let's say I buy gold and I go to whatever, www.newworldgold.net, and I buy fucking, give me 500,000, give me cap. And I buy it. And then I lose my account and I have to, I'm no longer level 60 with full fucking, all of the effort that I spent on expertise, all of that gets wiped. Now I'm level 1, starting over again from day 1. Do you not think that I'm not going to tell everyone in my guild, do you not think I'm going to tell Wolf and Sword, do not ever buy from a bot, because holy shit, everything got reset. I lost hundreds of hours of effort. I'm starting over. That's the best advertisement you can have as an Amazon game studio. That tells all of your players to tell all of their friends, don't do what I did. I can't think of a better way to...
I can't think of a faster spreading method of that news getting out either.
Yeah. 100%. All right.
Wolf,
One
more thing
go ahead.
I'd like to point on that, and this comes down to the advertisements you see in global chat. And this is a question for Amazon. Why do you need either the $, the pound sign, or any real money sigil to show up in any of our chats? And B, if somebody's saying USD, there's a significant chance they're talking about real money trading. Because even today, you can still hop on global chat and see advertisements for gold sellers.
You're not wrong.
Okay. Now, there's a thing that there's an issue or an item or whatever that we're going to hold off on discussing this week. We're going to push it next week. But I want to address it just to say we're not going to talk about it now because we don't know what the answer is. And that is this. Amazon suspended, or not suspended. Amazon Game Studios created an artificial subsidy where they said, for the time being, we're going to lower property tax by 90%, and we're going to subsidize the difference to the owners of the companies. And they said flat out, they realized after the fact, we made a huge mistake doing that because we've just created free gold, because every company immediately turned their tax from whatever it was, moderate in most cases, to maximum. And every company in the game just created massive free wealth for themselves. And that was a mistake. But here's where they're at now. They've said flat out, Amazon have said, we're going to, as of the end of the Christmas event, when the next patch drops, we're going to up the rent by some amount, but not as high as it was previously. So they've said, we're going to not allow for the rent to be as high as it was. The subsidy will end. The amount that it is going forward will be somewhere between where it was and where it is. And we don't know what that is yet. But then, all of that will be addressed when the patch drops. So we're to wait and see. We're not going to discuss it. We're not going to address it because it's stupid right now. It would just be a guess based on what is it? We don't know. Why? And then to discuss, is this right or is this wrong? Is entirely it's entirely dependent on where it ends, where it lands. So that'll be a thing that I promise you we will discuss probably on the next episode, because I think that the patch will drop between this episode and that episode. So we'll address it then. We talked about it before the show, and we all had all kinds of feelings, but those feelings are sort of irrelevant based on where it ends up. So we'll only know what the discussion is appropriate post-patch when it drops. And when it drops, then we'll see what it is. And once we see what it is, that'll be a conversation we'll have next week, probably. So I feel like I've addressed everything that I wanted to with regard to, where things are at with this. Sword, do you have anything that you're like, hey man, what about this? I want to add this. I want to give you the opportunity to add anything else that you feel needs to be discussed.
No, I think we covered most of it.
right.
If not all of it.
Wolf, do you have anything that you want to address yet going forward, where we're at right now, and or say goodnight to the beautiful people?
I can't think of any further subject to cover, either anew or better. So thanks for joining us, everyone.
I'm going to close out tonight by saying that I feel like there are multiple issues that can be addressed and made better in this game. But I feel that Amazon has done a phenomenal job of little by little making it better. Now, I feel that by making the February patch fixes, balance adjustments, bugs, and bots, they're putting themselves in a sort of a vulnerable state. They're going to lose a little bit of some of the player base because of the fact that, what is that game? I'm blanking right now. There's a new game that's coming that Amazon is putting out in February.
Something?
Arc Evolution, Arc something. And it's a situation where they're taking the opportunity to sort of fix some stuff right now. And I feel like they're going to lose some people because it's like people go for the new sexy. They go for, it's a new shiny new toy. But by making the changes that they're making this month, I feel like that's important. And by, putting themselves in a space where things are rebalanced and they're ready to hit the ground running, end of February, early March with new content, be it new zone, new, whatever. I feel like this is going to be in a good spot. So we'll talk to you next week about all the new stuff. And we love you and goodbye. Let me find the song for the outro. And then I'll see you guys down in Reekwater. We're going to start this Portals. Good night, people. We love you.